As a French woman, I've loved the character of Sylvie in Emily in Paris. And I feel she doesn't just steal the show because of her sense of style and good looks, but also because of her attitude, her confidence, and of course her many younger lovers. And the actress who plays her is 61, and she has gotten a lot of press recently for being the perfect example of what it means to age well the French way. And as always, I have a lot of thoughts about that. On one hand, I absolutely love Philippine-Leroy Beaulieu as an actress. I think she's beautiful, she's talented, she's very cool, and I personally love seeing women who are over 50 represented in the media in such a confident and glamorous way, while still looking their age. But I can't help but feel that the character of Sylvie actually represents a very specific archetype of French women over 50 that tends to get a lot of press. And there is a lot of talk online around why French women over 50 look so good, and while I was researching this video, I actually found a fascinating book called French Women Don't Get Facelifts. And this book has been written by a French-American author who has a thing for catchy title and stereotypes because she also is the author of French Women Don't Get Fat. And basically it talks about the fact that French women embrace aging naturally, focusing on self-confidence rather than chasing youth. And while there are some positive things in the book, I feel it kind of misses the point for two reasons. And the first one is that it focuses on actresses and models who make a living out of being beautiful instead of talking about normal people. Like, for example, she talks about Catherine Deneuve and Juliette Binoche, who are very far away from a normal French woman. And I feel I just have to address the title. Everyday French women don't skip facelifts out of principle. They skip them because they cost 10 grand. And overall, I do feel that a lot of the tips in these books and on the content you can find on YouTube around this topic are just not accessible to the everyday person. My other issue is that it tends to focus mostly on looks when there's so much more to aging. And here I have to read you this quote, and I can't believe these words are gonna come out of my mouth, okay? As we women grow older, arguably our biggest fear is losing our attractiveness. We become concerned about our wrinkles, jiggly derriere, thinning hair, thickening waist, and sagging breasts. And just to make it clear, this is not the biggest fear of French women around aging, and being overly concerned about every single detail of your appearance is not the reason why French women age so well. And just to confirm that, I found a survey that shows us that people are more concerned with down-to-earth stuff like preparing for retirement, staying independent as you grow older, and obviously staying healthy. So for this video, I've tried to look away from the stereotypes, and I looked into the secrets of aging of way more approachable role models and French influencers who are over 50, and I feel they have a more realistic and relatable approach to aging that includes looks but goes beyond that and actually touches on way deeper cultural aspects of aging in France, which I'll tell you about in a bit. I have to say, and you might notice that if you're regular of the channel, that this timeless French woman trope kind of reminds me of the Parisian girl stereotypes, but a few years later. So I've made a full video about that, but the Parisian girl stereotype is this always glamorous, effortlessly chic girl that's also perfectly carefree, and she's obviously an idealized version of French woman that's sold to the foreign press, and that obviously doesn't really reflect reality. Like here, for example, this is a shot of me walking in the Marais, which is one of the most fashion-forward neighborhoods, and there are no people who look like that. And one of the people I mentioned in this video is Caroline de Maigret, who is a 49-year-old model. She wrote the book How to Be Parisian Wherever You Are that really plays into this French girl stereotype that's sold to foreign media. And just to prove my point on the effortless Parisian girl to the timeless French woman stereotype pipeline, I found out that she also wrote a book about aging the French way called Older but Better but Older. And I've skimmed through it, and I do have to admit that there's good advice about confidence and also embracing natural beauty. But again, my problem with this is that it promotes an idealized view of aging where beauty and confidence are tied to looking effortlessly glamorous. As I've said before, it takes a lot of effort to look like you've not done anything. Like, for example, I'm by no means a beauty icon and I don't really wear makeup, but I do have an extensive skincare routine and I also get regular facials. And I'll talk all about beauty routines in the next section. Anyways, the way the media portrays French women over 50 often feels like another idealized and oversimplified stereotype, which we obviously need to unpack since this is not the full story about what it means to age well in France. One thing I do like about these articles, and that I feel is very very true in France is this idea that you can look good at any age. Like, you don't just look good for your age, you're a good looking person. And one thing that motivated me to make this video is that I've recently entered my 30s and I found myself drawn to content creators who are older than me and that promote a different view of aging, one that feels more inspiring than intimidating. And I do have to say that there's a lot of intimidating content around aging, especially on TikTok. And one thing I really like in the people I found is that they really own who they are and they feel confident in their own age instead of trying to turn back time. Like, I enjoy that they focus on being themselves and sharing what works best for them, either in terms of lifestyle or routines. And I don't know, I feel consuming this type of content has been so good for me mentally because it reminds me that there's so many ways to age well and it makes me look forward to going through different stages of life. And I also like that in France there's more of a focus on finding what works best for you instead of keeping up with the trends. And that's particularly true in terms of skincare. And I recently had the chance to talk about French skincare habits when I visited our sponsored Typology's lab, where I met with Madeleine to work on designing a skincare routine specifically for my skin. Typology is a French skincare brand and all their products are made in France with only the best ingredients. You can take their skin test on their website to find what your unique skin typology is. For me it was this one, which means that my skin is usually super dry, and I've been using their recommended products for 2 months now, and as you can tell by how much is left in the bottles, I've reincorporated them into my routine. So far, I love their hyaluronic acid, which is so good to hydrate my skin, and they also have this amazing under eye cream, which I feel I really need. And then I also have super chapped lips, so I love their hydrating lip mask. They're offering free shipping to the US for all orders over $60, so it's the perfect occasion to try high quality French skincare. Also, I do have to say that one thing I noticed is that I feel that aging is more seen as being a part of normal life in France, and there's this general feeling that you should accept the age you are instead of trying to act or look a different age, and overall that you should focus on enjoying the stage of life you're in, which I feel is a really positive message that goes way beyond just looks. And I remember when I turned 20, I was kind of scared or at least a little bit unexcited about turning 30, and I remember my mom telling me that she actually had preferred being in her 30s rather than in her 20s, and so far I have to admit that she was right, and I'm enjoying being 31 way more than being 21. That said, 31 is pretty young, and I know I still have a lot to learn about aging, and hopefully I get to stay healthy and age a lot more, but I wanted to share my thoughts and cultural observations on the topic. And I really love talking about the topic of aging with people who have a bit more experience than me in the matter. And one thing that always comes up and makes me happy is that often people tend to feel more confident as they age. And this has been also my personal experience of aging, that as you age, you start caring less and less about what others think of you. And you know, this applies to looks and body standards in general. It's a big theme of the content of Caroline Ida Urs, who is a content creator and a model who got started when she was 57, and she's now 64, and she got her big break when she was selected for an underwear ad that was everywhere in the Paris metro. I can't re-show you the ad here to keep it family friendly, but what stood out to me is that she's both very beautiful and she also has a relatable body type, being a size 14. But I'd say that beyond looks, her overall message is more about visibility for women who are above 50. And it feels refreshing to see her perspective, especially when social media can sometimes feel like no one over 30 really exists. Beyond social media, I do feel that France has naturally a lot of older role models, especially in traditional careers, because climbing the corporate ladder tends to take a bit longer in France, and people often reach their career peak a bit later in life. And that is not to say that ageism doesn't exist in France, and we're gonna talk about that in a bit. But if you think about it, being 54 is, for example, a pretty young age to be the president of the National Assembly in France. But in any case, as always, the foreign press has a way of making everything about looks. Like in this article, Elisabeth Borne, France's former prime minister, and Christine Lagarde, who is the president of the European Central Bank, are both mentioned as redefining the aesthetics of aging, which is not really the main achievement they're known for. And as you can expect, that's really not how The Economist covers their male counterparts. Like, I have not found a single article about Jerome Powell's style or looks. Alright, but not everything is perfect in France, and I've spoken about it before, but I feel there's a lot of social pressure in our society. It is true that France values simplicity, and also looking like you tried too hard is not really well seen. And the people who have a lot of visible plastic surgery, especially actresses and models, do get a lot of backlash in France. And people people who do get plastic surgery usually don't talk about it if they gotten some work done. I remember speaking about that with someone I know who's a nurse and who told me that people were mostly looking for invisible tweaks and that in France a good plastic surgery is one that makes you look a bit better but that no one can notice. So this is why we get books like French Women Don't Get Facelifts. I'm sure plenty of people get facelifts, we just don't hear about it. Also, for everyday people who are not in the tax bracket to get facelifts, there's also a lot of social pressure. And there's an expression that always comes up, it's se laisser aller, which is to let yourself go. Obviously that's something you don't want in France, and people will talk about you if they think you've let yourself go. And since France is a very direct country, people might make this feedback to you directly. And personally, that's why I stopped wearing makeup. In the past, I used to wear makeup every single day, and on the rare days when I was not wearing makeup, people would come to me looking seriously concerned and were telling me that I looked so tired and sick, which obviously didn't make me feel good. And this kind of forced me to adapt to avoid constant negative feedback. Now I don't wear visible makeup every single day and I keep it for special occasions. Also, everywhere there's the issue of ageism at work. I've personally worked in the banking and tech sector, and as you could expect, there's not many older people. There's even this fun but sad expression of botoxing your resume, which means removing a few dates from your resume so that people don't know your age. And obviously being in my 30s, I don't have too much personal experience around that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But I feel there's still this pressure in France, but it might be less strong than in other countries because in France, it's way harder to fire someone. Although there's another French expression I have to tell you. You can be mis au placard, which means you're being sidelined at work and given zero responsibilities to push you to quit. Overall, I do feel French society is pretty good at making sure people can actually enjoy life at every stage of their lives. I've talked about it before on the channel, but one thing I really love about my neighborhood is how many people of different ages there are. Like seriously, you see people from all generations just living their lives, and it's just so comforting to me because it makes me see that there's so much joy in going through all the different stages of life. And you always see a group of friends getting drinks, people doing different hobbies, and there's also in my neighborhood a social club aimed at people who are retired. I walk in front of it at least once a week when I go to the park, and it makes me so happy. You always see them doing different activities like painting, English classes, workouts, and many more. And that's something I do like in France, which makes it so much easier to age well, is that we have a much less work-focused culture. And people do keep their hobbies and friends at any age. Like for example, my parents recently retired, and I have to say that they're reliving their best lives. Every time I speak to them, they're always hiking, traveling, seeing friends, and I feel they have a richer social life than I do. And on social media and in the news, the conversation around aging often revolves around looks. And while there's nothing wrong about wanting to look good, I also think it's important to seek out more real and relatable voices, because the real reason why we see French women as aging really well, it's not because they look young, but instead because they're embracing their age and just aging however they want. Also, I want to acknowledge that being healthy as you age is such a privilege, and this is very relevant because we are in France an aging country. 40% of the population is now over 50, and that's why our social structures like our healthcare or retirement system matter so much as well. Along with that, the way we eat is super important as well, and I've made a full video about the French way of eating, so you should go check it out next. I'll see you there.